welcome everybody to the Synergy V Show. I'm super excited today. I want to start by talking about one key problem that I see, hear, and have to face on a regular basis. And this is all about counting calories. So many people that I know, unfortunately, only count calories, and then what they end up doing is they end up overeating certain things, and they wonder why they don't lose weight. They wonder why they're not getting the results. They wonder why they're not hitting their goals, their targets, all these things. So that's kind of what I want to wrap up in a summary today and try and help you out as much as I possibly can. This is an area that probably is overdone by so many people, but we're just going to get straight to it. So how many times have you constantly said, it's okay that, I ate 300 calories too much because then I just went and did a 500 calorie workout? Unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. We have so many people that will say, calories in, calories out, right? How old school is that saying? Extremely old school. And the problem with that is that it really doesn't really work. And we're talking like longevity here, okay? Yes, we could probably lose weight, we could probably hit our targets, and we could probably do something in a manner that is fast, and it will probably be effective, but it is not going to be long lasting. So my approach always has to be long lasting. So I'm thinking like long view. I'm thinking like, how long can I have this person achieve their results and sustain their results for hopefully the rest of their life? Now, the problem with people who just count calories is it doesn't really tell you why you're gaining or losing weight. So in other words, let's say you have 300 calories too much, but you don't actually know where they're coming from. Are they coming from carbs, fats, proteins? We have no idea. Also, you have to factor in what kind of training you're doing. Are you doing resistance training? Are you maybe just a runner? Maybe you're just someone that only does cardio. So this is also equally going to matter just as much. All right. So a lot of the times, research has really shown like when people eat the right foods in terms of their macros, right? Not necessarily focusing on restrictions, they're actually healthier and they're happier. Now, counting calories is essentially a shortcut to unhappiness. And I'll tell you why. When you're trying to count calories, you're fixated. You're fixated on one specific number. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people still get fixated on macros and they still kind of like get obsessed with those numbers, but that's a different story, okay? So we will go into that in just a hot second. But we have to think about what is nutritional value. So when we think of nutritional value, we're thinking carbs, fats, proteins. These are what essentially adds up to the calculations of your calories. So if you're thinking about how many calories there is in 1 gram of fat, you're looking at 9 calories, okay? So that is quite a lot of calories. That's why fat has more calories than anything else. Carbs and fats, so you're going to see 4. So what you want to focus on when you're doing something like macros essentially is what's going to help you edge you closer to where you want to go. So let's say you want to tone up a little bit. Does that mean you count calories? Or maybe that is something where you need to focus on your protein. Because if you focus on your protein and you combine that with resistance training, then you're going to see a change in the definition, the makeup of your body composition. That means that you're actually going to gain some muscle. And that's really what everyone wants. They want to gain muscle. Now, if we're focusing on, let's say, someone that wants to solely work on, maybe they want to bulk up and they want to just kind of put on size, they may just eat more fat, more protein, and more carbs, like a little bit of everything, but they're still going to eat a range of those macros, because that is essentially what's going to help them bulk. But what about if we're talking about somebody who just wants to lose weight? Now, someone that comes to me and says, I want to lose weight. The very first thing I say is like, well, what kind of weight? Because you can lose muscle, that's losing weight. You can lose fat, that's also losing weight. You can lose a lot of things in your body, and that is losing weight. You can lose, even if you want to look at it like this, you can lose water. And that's also weight. So you can't just focus on losing weight, because if you're approaching something like, I want to lose weight, that's exactly the same as you going, well, I'm counting my calories to lose the weight. It's a very blind approach to what you're trying to achieve. So I want to help you understand the importance of maybe looking at less about calories, more about your macros. And when we talk about calories, one of the biggest things is this, right? It's not practical for daily life. And plus, like I said, it does overlook nutritional value. So you could go and say, okay, there's 400 calories in this donut. Awesome. All right, let's say you're on a 1200 calorie diet for the day and you eat this donut, it's 400 calories, and then you want to go and eat something at home that maybe is 500 calories, but it's a little more balanced. And then you want to have a couple of drinks with your meals, and those are going to add up to about 600 calories. Okay, you've hit your quota of calories for the day. But if we were to then go dive deeper into where those calories came from, we would probably see a huge spike in sugar, a much bigger spike in all around carbohydrates, a low protein, and a low to moderate fat intake. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've balanced your day and you've actually edged you closer to your goal. Probably not. Plus, you don't even know how much sodium is in any of that. You don't really know how much fiber is in any of that. So you're really kind of going in blindly into this, and that's not what is going to get you the result. So yes, you can count calories at first. Let's say you just started a journey. You just started on track to trying to kind of, get as healthy as you can, and you want to just start with calories. That's fine. You can start with calories, but very quickly that will have to shift. And the shift in that will definitely need to be in towards macros. And macros, what I love about macros is it means that you can eat a range of things. So you can actually still have a lot of good carbohydrates. And when we're talking about good carbohydrates, we're not talking about fortified foods. We're not talking about the unhealthy sugars. Like we're talking about the foods that are actually going to be more whole foods, right? So we're talking about, your potatoes. We're talking about, your good sources like fruits, vegetables. Like those actually are good sources of carbohydrates. Then most of the time, we have two types of people out there. We have the type of people that will overeat on their protein, and we'll have the type of people that will undereat their protein. Now, the undereaters on their protein tend to overeat on fat and carbs. The overeaters on the protein tend to undereat their carbs and think they're healthy. They're not healthy. That is not going to be what is going to edge you closer. So the problem is there is such thing as too much protein, and a lot of people don't want to understand this concept. Protein can easily be an overload. If you have too much protein, your body cannot store it. It doesn't know what to do with it. So a lot of the time, people will load up on protein and end up going overboard. Now, here's the problem when having too much protein. Your body will do one of three things. The very first thing that your body will do with the protein that you have ingested is it will go to your muscle, especially if you've been doing workouts that require resistance training, and it will repair these little micro tears that you've done. And these micro tears are the ones that your proteins go in and they basically repair it and they make it stronger for the next time you go and do those micro tears again. These are healthy micro tears. So the proteins come in and they've fixed and they've repaired and they've recovered that muscle to then go and then repeat itself into the next time you go to the gym. The next thing after that is your body will excrete any excess protein through urine. And the reason for that is because, again, it cannot store it, so it needs to get rid of it. But let's say you've had way too much and you need to do something else with even the more protein that you have. Well, guess what? Your body will store it. It will convert that protein to fat and then load it onto your body exactly where you don't want it to go. What do you have to do? You need to be mindful about how much protein you eat. You can't just eat as much protein as you want and think that you're healthy. That is not the case. So do enough that's going to serve your body. In other words, let's say you are trying to put on some muscle. Yes, you're going to have enough protein to serve your muscle. That's typically 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's like a very generalized. You Google search it, that's what it's going to throw at you. Now, if you want to dive a little deeper into that, what you want to do is go for your lean muscle. Now, lean muscle is very different to just a gram per pound because, if let's say you're 150 pounds, you're not just 150 pounds of muscle. You're 100 and maybe you're 110 pounds of muscle. Maybe you're only 95 pounds of muscle. So sometimes if you can dive deeper into your actual numbers, you will find that you will get way more benefit, way more results by going for the right amount of macros. So I hear a lot of people that will overeat or undereat their protein. Typically, what I have found in America actually is that most women undereat their protein. Most men overeat their protein. Now, being from Australia, it's a little different. So in Australia, I actually found that most people were pretty much on track because, they're pretty big, I guess, meat eaters over there. So it was a little bit easier to find somebody that would actually probably have enough protein. The problem over, everywhere you go is going to have a slightly different approach to things. So they typically would have that. Now, in terms of fat though, fat is typically ingested way more over here. Okay. So fat is ingested very much in any kind of country. It's pretty much too much. And a lot of the time it's because we eat out too much. We eat fast food, and fast food has the worst types of fat. So if you can avoid it at all costs, okay? In other words, when you're going to a restaurant, when you're going to a fast food restaurant, you can bet that they are using the worst oil that is possible, and I'll tell you why. It's cheaper. And if it's cheaper for them to use a worse oil for your food, they can keep their prices lower, which is intriguing to you, so that hey, I can go and get a $6 meal. It's great, it tastes great, but yet you actually don't know that what you're putting into your body is the worst thing ever, right? The meals that are going to cost more are typically because those places are using better ingredients, okay? And better ingredients cost more money. That's just how it is. So when we go back to our protein, right, we want to make sure that we're having enough, and we want to make sure we're not going overboard. We also want to make sure that we're not having too little. In terms of fat, very few people can handle a lot of fat. If you are one of those people that you can have more of a higher quality fat diet, great. That's awesome. That's going to work for you. You can also go on moderate fat. You could also go low fat. It really just depends on what your body is going to respond to the best. You don't just go on a low fat diet because you go on a low fat diet. Like, that's the problem right there, is that you've followed a low fat and then insert the word diet. Don't do that. You want to go for something that's moderate, and always, always, always go for healthier fats. These are the things. These are so easy to find. It's so easy to find some avocados, some some nuts. Then you've got olive oil. Like, there are so many variations of healthy fats. It is so unnecessary to go for the worst oils, which is your sunflower oil, your safflower oil. Some of these these fats that are essentially going to cause you more harm than help you. And then when we kind of package this all together, the most important thing is going, okay, well, how much should I have, right? We download an app, we Google what we should maybe have, and then we kind of input it, and then we try and do it, and it doesn't work, and then we get all mad at ourselves. Well, guess what? You probably just don't know what you're doing, and that's okay. If you don't know what you're doing, there are millions of people out there, some who claim that they know what they're doing, and others who actually know what they're doing, and they are the ones to help you. So understand that if you want to get it right, you're going to have to search for it. You're going to have to actually put some investment into knowing what to have, and then wherever you've invested, you want them to hold you accountable to that and make sure that you are tracking, because it is a huge difference. Rather than you saying, coming and saying, oh, I only ate 1,200 calories, and then you think to yourself you're healthy. But that's not necessarily the case. That's not going to work for you. So you want to focus on your macros, okay? This is going to be so much better. Also, one of the biggest things that I used to find when I was younger and kind of coming into the fitness industry, a lot of people that were counting calories ended up leading to eating disorders. And this is a huge no-no zone. You do not want to get so obsessed with just one number that you become obsessed with everything. You have to think about what you're having, how much you're having, and doing it in a healthy manner. It is very important. As soon as you become obsessed, you have to redirect yourself. No one that is obsessed with macros or even calories or whatever, any type of obsession like that, you need to understand that there is going to be a better, more healthier way of doing things. So I've had people that get so obsessed with either calories or maybe even just tracking their food that I then have to redirect them to their performance goals. So performance goals is very different than your nutritional goals, because then you're solely focusing on how you're performing in the gym. What weights are you lifting? How fast are you running? How high can you jump? Like, these are the other areas that you can then put your effort and put your mindset towards, so that you're not fixated on just foods. Because sometimes we get so fixated on foods that we kind of start to forget that there's like this whole other element to fitness and health. Like, fitness and health isn't just what you eat, it's also what you're doing alongside what you eat. It's also your mentality, it's also your sleep. Like, we have to think about the whole picture here, not just parts of the picture. So the main key that you got to start thinking about is going to be this: veer away from counting calories. If you can get towards counting macros, focus on counting your macros and hitting your target, not going under all the time, not going a little bit over on one and a little bit under another, like actually hitting your target and being as consistent as you can. You will get to a point where you don't have to track so much, because you just know. Like, that's the beauty of it. You get good at it. And then combine that with your training. Your training should always include some form of resistance. And then combine that with healthy sleep, all right, getting the right amount. And then combine that with making sure that you're doing some mentality stuff, something that is going to be good for your head. Like, the amount of people that just kind of go through the motion and don't actually take time to just sit back and just resonate with what's going on, like embrace things, like, do some reflection. It doesn't have to take a ton of time, but something that's going to also put your head in the right headspace, because you can't have one without the other. And one will kind of like spread into the other and essentially make that fall short. So as much as you can, you got to try and think about these 4 pillars where you are really diving into each of them and making them the best that they can be. So I love to use this analogy where you think of 4 cups of water. You can't just pour into 1, 2, or only 3. You have to pour into all 4. When we talk about these, then you're thinking about your nutrition, the cup that's all about nutrition and fueling your body right. The next cup you're thinking about is going to be your movement. So what are you doing to move well? Like, what are you doing in terms of going to the gym or going for runs or whatever it is that you do? And then you're going to then think about your sleep. How much are you pouring into your sleep? Are you actually trying to sleep better? Are you actually setting yourself up to get enough sleep and get good quality sleep? And then the very final one is going to be mentality. Like, what are you doing to make sure that your head is constantly being intentional, being effective, trying to be better in every other element as well, because they all will factor into each other. So when you don't sleep well, you typically don't want to go and move very much. If you don't move much, you don't typically want to eat the same way. And if you don't eat the same way, then you start to your mood starts to change. So you can see how one can easily affect the other. So you have to try to focus on what are these elements for me. Like, you got to think about what's going to be the best for you, and then start to take actionable steps. The actionable steps is what's going to get you to where you want to go. If you don't take actionable steps, you're then going to start to struggle. So stop counting calories, start focusing on macros, start thinking about your performance and what you want to achieve, and start setting some goals, like physical goals. And then pour some more attention into your sleep. And then pour some more attention into maybe doing some reflection for yourself, and always add gratitude, because gratitude changes everything. And it's so easy for people to forget that. So I hope that was helpful for you. I would absolutely love it if you could subscribe and like to this channel. This would be amazing for me and for the channel. And then like also on Apple and Spotify. I would definitely appreciate it. The more ratings I get, the more awareness I get, and the more content I can provide for everybody here. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right. Please go and be intentional with your health. It changes everything. And go be great.